check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. Once upon a time, Punchy looked like this, believe it or not. And now it looks like this. It's been 18 months since I restarted this paint job. I just got so busy with painting wall murals, which is what I do as a full-time living, that I can't quite seem to finish this no matter how hard I try. But I did accomplish repainting this door. I peeled off, so if you see my car before, it had wood grain completely from front fender to rear fender. Well, I removed the wood grain and it removed a bunch of the blue paint with it. So I had to sand this almost all the way down to bare metal and redo it. So that process is coming up in this video, and then I'm also going to show you how I'm going to redo this wood grain. And I think I have a clever idea that I haven't seen done before, so let's do that now. All right, so I had this idea. So I've got this hood trim piece, right? I want to basically take this same curve of the hood and I want to place it down here. Right, so it's going to be something like this. And everything below that will stay blue. Everything to the top and left of it up to that other trim piece will be all wood grain. So it's going to have this like nice swooping wood grain that goes up to a thinner ending here towards the back fender. So let's see if I can make that make sense for you and see what it looks like when it's finished. that I got this taped up on here, I can just take a pencil or a wax pencil or whatever you want, really, because it's going to get covered up. Swat the mosquitoes away. And then I'm just going to trace this. Okay, so now I just got a little pencil line right here, and I'm going to use this as a guide for placing on a new piece of trim. So what I did is I just took my scissors and I cut a slit right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take an X-Acto blade and I'm just going to carefully cut this back, right, so that it's not overhanging the edge. Alright, so there we go. So now that's cut away from the door seam and that won't have to be an issue anymore. And the other thing is, since this is much shinier and it's thicker than the stock trim that comes up here, I'm just going to go ahead and take what's left off this roll and I'm going to place it up here. And then I'll have to buy a second roll for the other side and then for the hood. Alright, so if you take your time, this can be done to where it's pretty straight. Now it's gonna want to jog up and down on you, but if you just go a little section at a time, you can actually get it to go on pretty straight. Key to this chrome molding is just take your time. That's all I can say about that. And then you'll want to cut your angles to match the fenders, and then stop where the door hinge is, and then to match these angles as well. Alright, so now I'm going to put my wood grain inside of here. Now this is a vinyl wood grain. This is just a vinyl, like car wrap. You see me do other vinyl stuff on this channel, so that's all this is. But this is called die knock, so you can actually see texture and you can feel texture within the surface of this vinyl, so it's very realistic. And this kind of has like a satin type of sheen to it. So that's what I'm going to put on next. Okay, so I just got this vinyl laid out, stuck to the car with some magnets and a piece of tape. And then basically what I did is I removed this lower corner. I just kind of felt where that chrome strip is, and I just cut off that excess, and I'm going to save that for maybe something else. Alright, because I'll show you what I'm going to do now. Just folded back some paper to give me a starting line, or starting end here. And I'm just going to stick that down, just the ending. Now I'm not worried about it overlapping the chrome trim because I'll trim that up once I'm done. Now I'm just going to grab some more paper and peel back about a foot at a time and squeegee it down. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, if you have a heat gun, that's going to make a hell of a lot of difference on getting this material to lay flat and avoiding any fingers or bubbles. So I'll show you how I do that. So you gotta, if you're doing this method, what you want to make sure you do is as you're squeegeeing it, you're not pushing this up or down, because you want this grain to run as perfectly horizontal as possible. I'm just gonna pour a little bit more paper. Grab my squeegee. Now here's where you're gonna want to maybe use some heat. Now I'm not going to worry about these edges just yet. I'm just going to get the whole piece of vinyl down, and then I'll come back and clean up these edges. I'm going to go ahead and trim this seam right now. So kind of stick it to the edge there and then just carefully trace it down. Okay, so you can see how this is going on. It's overlapping this top trim, which is fine. I'm gonna lift this away from the trim and tuck up underneath of that, and then I'll take my blade and just trim off the excess, and it'll be a nice clean edge. So the difficult part on this wrap is going around these hinges for most. So I'm gonna kind of show you what I do to approach this. So I got the vinyl to this point, and then I just cut on the left side of this door seam with the blade while it's pulled away from the paint, because you don't want to scratch that paint, obviously. And then I just set that piece aside for now, and then I'll come back and match up the wood grain and do this front section. But right now, the main goal here is to get this pushed all the way into this edge. So you want to lift this away, give it some slack, and you want to just push it right up to that door edge. And same with this, you just kind of pull that away, give yourself a little bit of slack, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with this now. Alright, so this is going to be hard to do with one hand, but what I'm going to do is get that vinyl tucked right up under there as best as I can. And then I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to carefully just cut a little bit of a slit here, just like a relief cut. And then this will be able to pull away, allowing this theoretically to lay into this corner. There we go. To lay into that corner as closely as possible. So I'm gonna just go ahead and work this up into this corner, and then take my blade and zip that down there, and zip that down there. And once I get this to the door edge, the leading door edge right here, you can kind of see it. I'm gonna take my blade and I'm just gonna punch it through the vinyl here at the top and run that blade alongside of that door edge. The side of the blade, not the sharp edge of the blade. And just use that door as a guide. I'm gonna go all the way down here, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did up top down here at this hinge. All right. So now that that's cut, that's tucked around there. Get this bottom piece tucked up in. Really helps to wear a glove. You can kind of use your fingers as squeegees. Then I'm gonna take some heat and I'm gonna put right on that edge. And then I'm gonna push that in there. The heat's really gonna help make this vinyl adhere to the surface even better. right? So now the next step is to get this trim cleaned up. So you want to just pull the vinyl loosely away from it, so you got a little bit of slack here. Then as you go, pull a little bit of this away. Just use that squeegee as you're holding this. It's hard to do with one hand, but you'd kind of hold it away with one hand and tuck it up underneath of there, because you don't want any tension going over that edge, or else it'll pop up. So you want to tuck it up in there real nice. And when you're done with that, once you're satisfied it's tucked up under there, you'll take your blade, make sure you get a nice sharp blade so you don't have to push real hard, and you'll just run your blade right along the bottom edge of that chrome trim, nice and lightly, just enough to cut the vinyl. You'll peel the excess away, and then just come in with some heat and a little final squeegee, and then the edge will be done. And then you'll want to repeat the same process here, but on the top edge of the trim. Here, obviously, the bottom edge. Okay, now the last step is the door handle area.
So we're just gonna find where our holes are here. Now this one, I have a chrome plastic piece that is gonna fit over top of this, so I don't have to worry about making sure this is all pushed in and smooth. I am gonna kind of put a slit in it, and then what I'm gonna do is just start pushing in this edge just a little bit. And then I'm gonna come back with the heat gun. Let's switch hands. Alright, I'm gonna come back with the heat gun. Give that a little bit of heat, which will allow this to push in without as much tension, because I put that little relief cut in there. Okay, I'm gonna give this just a little bit more heat. And I'm gonna come back and push this in a little bit more, until that's all pushed down in there, right? So now with this slit, this is basically, just that little bit of a cut will give enough tension relief that you can push that in there without this one to pop back out. And when you're done, just give it a little post heat. And really push it down, especially in these curved areas. And then that should never pop back out. Alright, then we got this little square rectangle here, so we're just gonna stick the blade in that hole, run the blade along the edges of it, right, and pull that out. And then the same with this one, which is much bigger. Boom, boom, boom. And that pops right out. And then we gotta get the door handle back on.
Do, 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 do.